Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, absolutely certain you heard someone call your name? That chilling, crystal clear whisper that seems to come from right beside your ear. You brush it off, right? Just a dream, your mind playing tricks on you. But what if it wasn't? What if something was actually there, speaking to you in a way we can't quite understand? This is the story of the Siljan signals, a sleep study that started with the goal of understanding REM cycles, but stumbled into something far, far stranger. It all began in a small, privately funded research lab in upstate New York. Dr. Eris Thorne, a brilliant but somewhat eccentric neuroscientist, was leading a study on the relationship between dreams and physiological stress responses. He gathered a diverse group of 12 volunteers. They were all healthy, with no history of sleep disorders or psychiatric issues. The setup was standard. Each subject would sleep in a soundproof, isolated room, wired up with IG to monitor brainwaves and ECG to track heart rate. Microphones and cameras were in place to record everything. For the first week, everything was completely normal. The data was clean. The subjects reported typical dream patterns, and the study was progressing exactly as planned. Then, on the 8th night, the first incident occurred. A subject, a 28-year-old librarian named Chloe, buzzed the observation room at 3:13 a.m. She was visibly shaken. She told the night technician that she'd been woken up by a voice whispering her name, Chloe, clear as day. The technician calmed her down, assuring her it was probably just part of a dream, a common phenomenon called a hypnagogic hallucination. They reviewed the audio logs for her room. Nothing, just the soft hum of the ventilation system and the rustle of her sheets. The technician made a note in the log, and Chloe eventually went back to sleep. The next night, it happened again. This time, it was 2 subjects in separate rooms at nearly the same time. One, a college student named Ben, reported hearing his name at 2:48 a.m. The other, a retired postal worker named Frank, reported it at 2:49 a.m. Both described the same thing, a low, genderless whisper right by their ear. Again, the technicians checked the audio, and again, they found absolute silence. Dr. Thorne was intrigued. 3 incidents in 2 nights was a statistical anomaly, but still within the realm of coincidence. He instructed his team to pay closer attention and to start cross-referencing all sensor data. This is where the story takes a turn from strange to deeply unsettling. Over the next week, every single one of the 12 subjects reported the same experience at least once. Always between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Always the same description. A clear, close whisper of their own name. And every single time, the high-fidelity microphones in their soundproof rooms picked up nothing. Absolutely nothing. The subjects were starting to get spooked. They talked to each other during their downtime, discovering they'd all had the same terrifying experience. The sense of a shared, unseen presence began to permeate the facility. Dr. Thorne, however, was less interested in ghost stories and more interested in the data. And the data was telling a story of its own. While the audio recordings were blank, the physiological data was not. Pulling up the ECG readouts, Thorne's assistant noticed something. On the night Chloe first reported the whisper, at precisely 3 hours, 13 minutes and 2 seconds a.m., her heart rate spiked dramatically. It went from a resting 60 beats per minute to over 110 in less than a second, a classic fight-or-flight response. This was the exact moment she said she heard the whisper. Intrigued, Thorne pulled the data for Ben and Frank. The same pattern. At 2 hours 48 minutes and 11 seconds a.m., Ben's heart rate shot up. At 2 hours 49 minutes and 4 seconds a.m., Frank's did the same. A sudden, inexplicable jolt of adrenaline in the dead of night. This was a significant finding. It proved the subjects weren't just misremembering a dream. They were experiencing a genuine physiological shock. Something was causing a fear response, even if they couldn't record it. But the real discovery, the one that turned this from a medical mystery into something terrifying, came when Dr. Thorne decided to synchronize the data feeds from all 12 subjects onto a single timeline. He wanted to see if there were any environmental triggers, maybe a low-frequency hum or a pressure change that was affecting them all. He stared at the screen at 12 lines of data, 12 beating hearts, all ticking along in the quiet of the night. And then he saw it. On the 10th night of the study, at 3 hours 22 minutes and 17 seconds a.m., something impossible happened. In that exact same second, every single one of the 12 subjects sleeping peacefully in their separate, soundproof rooms experienced the exact same cardiac spike. 12 hearts jumping in perfect, terrifying synchrony. From resting to panicked in the same instant, Thorne felt a cold dread creep up his spine. He checked the logs. That night, 5 different subjects had reported hearing the whisper at that approximate time. The other 7 hadn't reported anything, but their bodies had reacted. Their bodies had heard something. It was impossible. There was no shared stimulus, no sound, no vibration, no light. The rooms were electromagnetically shielded. They were, for all intents and purposes, 12 separate realities. And yet some signal, some silent, invisible, and unmeasurable voice had passed through the walls, through the shielding, and spoken to them all in the exact same fraction of a second. The study was immediately and quietly terminated. The official report cited inconclusive data and equipment malfunctions. The subjects were paid, debriefed with a cover story about ambient infrasound, and sent home. They were never told what the full data showed. Dr. Thorne, according to his colleagues, became obsessed. He spent years trying to replicate the Siljan signal, as he called it, but he never could. He theorized it wasn't a sound in the traditional sense, but perhaps some form of direct neural stimulation or something stranger, something that operates on a level of reality we don't have the tools to perceive yet. What was it? What could possibly cause a dozen people isolated from each other to experience a synchronized physiological terror event? Was it a previously unknown natural phenomenon? A shared telepathic event triggered by the unique stresses of the study? Or was it something else? A presence, a form of consciousness that exists outside our sensory spectrum, that moved through that facility one night and, for a reason we will never know, decided to whisper into the minds of the sleepers. The raw data from the Siljan Signals study was never published. It remains locked away, a chilling testament to a night when science brushed up against the truly inexplicable. It makes you think, doesn't it? The next time you wake up, heart pounding, certain you heard your name in an empty room, maybe it's not just a dream. Maybe you read just another data point in an experiment you were a part of. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the unknown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Sleep well.